Welcome. Today we are looking at KCSE CRE paper 1 2016. Thanks a lot for subscribing. Question 1a. Name 8 historical books in the Old Testament. B. Outline the reasons why the Bible is referred to as a library. C. Give 5 occasions when Christians use the Bible. Question 2a. Narrate Abraham's attempt to sacrifice his son, as found in Genesis chapter 22 from verse 1 to 19. B. What are the differences between Jewish and traditional African practices of circumcision? C. Give 6 ways through which Christians portray themselves in the society today. Question 3a. Explain 6 ways used by King David to promote the worship of Yahweh in Israel. B. Discuss 4 life skills used by Prophet Elijah to fight against false religion in Israel. Question 4a. Describe 3 groups of true prophets in the Old Testament. B. Give 6 similarities between the traditional African prophets and the true prophets in the Old Testament. C. Identify 8 problems experienced by church leaders in their work. Question 5a. Describe the meaning of the symbolic act of buying land by Prophet Jeremiah. 5b. Explain the challenges faced by the prophet Jeremiah during his ministry. C. Give 5 ways through which Christians settle disagreements among themselves. Question 6a. Explain the significance of rituals conducted during the naming ceremonies in traditional African communities. B. Which moral values were required during marriage in traditional African communities? 6c. Give reasons why traditional African communities feared death. Answers. 1a. Name 8 historical books in the Old Testament. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 and 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. 1b. Outline the reasons why the Bible is referred to as a library. It contains many books. The books were written by different authors. It has different categories of books. The books are written in different styles. The books in the Bible are written at different times. The books in the Bible address different issues. The books were written for different audiences. The books are systematically arranged. 1c. Give 5 occasions when Christians use the Bible. When preaching the Word of God, when in court, when instructing new converts, during different Christian ceremonies, when teaching Christian religious education, when composing gospel songs, during fellowships, during a swearing-in ceremony. Question 2a. Narrate Abraham's attempt to sacrifice his son Isaac, is found in Genesis chapter 22 from verse 1 to 19. God told Abraham to take his only son to the land of Moriah. Abraham took his son, 2 servants, and wood for a burnt offering. They arrived at the place after a 3 days' journey. Abraham commanded his servants to remain behind as he and Isaac went up to worship. He took Isaac, the firewood, and the knife and went up. Isaac asked his father where the lamb for the offering would come from. Abraham told Isaac that God would provide the lamb for a burnt offering. When they arrived at the place God had commanded, Abraham built an altar. He bound Isaac, laid him on the altar upon the wood. Abraham took the knife to slay his son, but the angel of the Lord stopped him. Abraham saw a ram, which he offered instead of his son. He called the name of the place, "The Lord will provide." The angel appeared to Abraham a second time and gave him promises because of his disobedience. Abraham returned with his men from Beersheba. Question 2a. What are the differences between the Jewish and the traditional African practices of circumcision? 1. In the Jewish community, circumcision is for male children only, whereas it is for both male and female in the African practices. Among the Jews, circumcision is performed on babies of 80 days old, whereas in traditional African communities, it is done during adolescence. It is a test of courage in the African communities, whereas in the Jewish community, it is a sign of the covenant with God. 4. Circumcision in African communities is a communal practice, whereas among the Jews, only members of the immediate family participate. 5. In traditional African communities, initiates take up responsibilities, while among the Jews, the initiates are too young to shoulder any responsibility. 6. In traditional African communities, circumcision is carried out during specific reasons, while among the Jews it is continuous. Question 3a. Explain 6 ways used by King David to promote the worship of Yahweh in Israel. He brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. He made Jerusalem a holy city where Israelites from all over the land came for important religious occasions. He composed the Psalms, which were used in worship by the Israelites. He showed respect to the prophets of Yahweh. He wanted to build a temple for God. When he made mistakes, he asked for Yahweh's forgiveness. He sought for God's guidance in whatever he wanted to do. He entered into a covenant with God. He built altars. 3b. Discuss 4 life skills used by Prophet Elijah to fight against false religion in Israel. Assertiveness. He told Ahab that he was the cause of trouble in Israel. Creative thinking. He requested for a contest between the prophets of Baal and himself. 3. Decision making. He killed the prophets of Baal. Self-esteem. He was convinced that God was on his side. Negotiation. Elijah asked the Israelites to choose between God and Baal. Conflict resolution. Through the contest, he convinced the Israelites that Yahweh was the true God. Effective communication. He explained to the people how the contest would be carried out. Self-awareness. He knew that he was the prophet of the true God. Question 4a. Describe 3 groups of true prophets in the Old Testament. Major prophets. Their messages are elaborate. Minor prophets. They have brief messages. Canonical prophets. They are prophets whose utterances are recorded in the books that bear their names. Non-canonical prophets. They are prophets whose messages have been compiled by other authors. Cultic prophets. They are prophets whose duties were associated with the places of worship. Early prophets. They went by God for specific tasks. For example, Moses. 4b. Give 6 similarities between the traditional African prophets and the true prophets in the Old Testament. Both predicted future events. Both acted as mediators between God and the people. Both had supernatural powers to exercise their duties. Both had personal relationship with God. They were religious leaders who could offer sacrifices. Both played an advisory role to the political leaders. Both urged their people to be morally upright. They led exemplary lives. In both cases, there were prophets and prophetesses. Question 4c. Identify 8 problems experienced by church leaders in their work. Church leaders are rejected. They are rivalry among themselves. They experience discrimination based on tribal. There is hypocrisy among church and life. Inadequate finances, or rather you can just say poverty. They encounter temptations in their duties. They encounter language barriers while spreading the word of God. There is conflict interpretation of the Bible. There is political interference in their work. They are faced with competition from false prophets. And missiveness in the society hinders their work. Poor infrastructure makes it difficult for them to access some areas. Insecurity. Question 5a. Describe the meaning of the symbolic act of buying land by Prophet Jeremiah. It showed the people of Judah still had a future despite the coming crisis. It was assurances that the people would be restored back to their homeland. It demonstrated that the people would resume their normal lives. Divine judgment was not an end itself. Restoration was to take place at God's own time. The people had to wait patiently for their return from exile. It showed that God was loving. It made them feel secure. Or rather, it made them feel they were not lacking anything. Question 5b. Explain the challenges faced by the prophet Jeremiah during his ministry. He was rejected by his own family. People made false accusations against him. He was threatened with death because of speaking for God. He lived a lonely, solitary life. His message was rejected by the Israelites. He went through spiritual struggle as he saw the evil prosper while the righteous suffered. He was physically assaulted. The enemies attempted to kill him. He was humiliated in public. He was imprisoned. He was arrested and put on trial. 5c. Give 5 ways through which Christians settle disagreements among themselves. They pray over the issue. They offer guidance and counseling to the affected. Paying visits. Involving church leaders as arbitrators. Forgiving the one who has wronged the other. Willingness by the offender to accept the mistakes made. Withdrawing some privileges for a period of time so that one can perform. By sharing meals through shaking of hands. 6a. Explain the significance of rituals conducted during the naming ceremonies in traditional African communities. Bathing of the baby sets in the beginning of new life. Shaving of the mother in the baby's hair symbolizes new status. Choosing of the appropriate name to give the baby is for identification. Feeding of the baby symbolized new life growth. Holding of the baby by members of the community shows concern for it. Also, shows shared responsibility by the extended family. Saying prayers or words of blessing for the mother and the baby signifies long life. Slaughtering of animals is a way of thanksgiving to ancestors. Feasting is a sign of joy. Giving of presents to the baby is a sign of goodwill. Wearing of charms signifies protection for the baby. 6b. Which moral values are acquired during marriage in traditional African communities? Faithfulness, respect, responsibility, hospitality, tolerance, love, cooperation, humility, honesty, integrity, courage. 6c. Give reasons why traditional African communities fear death. It disrupts the rhythm of human life. It is irrevocable. It brings impurity to the family. It deprives the community of the individuals. It involves too many rituals. It becomes unannounced. It separates one from the loved ones. Nobody knows about the life after death. It may cause misunderstanding in the community. Death rights reveals people characteristics. It brings poverty to the family involved. Did you understand? Kindly let me know in the comment section below. Tomorrow we are going to look at KCSE Paper 1 2017. Thanks a lot for subscribing and listening to me. God bless you.